You know what I do? I put people in position, put them on the podcast, give them jobs, help them make legal money. A lot of the that people are getting caught up for, especially with Brig, it's like, I'm not seeing anything that says anything about stuff that he's done in the last 2 years since he's been with us, right? So, end of the day, I do employ people from the streets. And I guess, people from the streets sometimes get caught up in federal RICO indictments, whatever this is.
When it comes to street legends in Los Angeles, few names hit harder than Big U, real name Eugene Henley. For decades, his name carried weight from the block to the boardroom. He was the man people said could get things done in LA, whether that meant making sure your concert ran smooth, your music popped in the streets, or your store didn't get pressed by the wrong crews. But now, Big U's empire is crumbling in real time, with the feds painting him as the mastermind of one of the dirtiest, most dangerous RICO cases the city has ever seen. This ain't just about a street beef. It's about a man who supposedly turned charity work, community activism, and even the music industry into a cover for extortion, robbery, and murder. The bombshell dropped in March 2025 when federal prosecutors unsealed a massive indictment against Big U and 18 other rolling 60s Crips. They hit him with the kind of charges that leave no wiggle room: racketeering, extortion, drug trafficking, robbery, even homicide. The feds say Big U wasn't just a street dude who made it legit, he was running a criminal empire under the disguise of being a community leader. To make it worse, the indictment drags his Developing Options nonprofit and his unique music label straight into the fire, saying both were used as fronts to launder money and keep his street grip alive. The same programs he once got praised for, working with schools, throwing community events, helping kids stay out of gangs, are now being painted as part of the scam.
Justice for them.
And the allegations get darker. According to prosecutors, Big U crossed a line that shocked even people who knew how grimy LA politics could get. They claim he personally ordered the murder of his own artist, Rayan Williams, after Williams dissed him on a track. The feds say Williams' body was found in the desert, beaten and executed. Proof, they argue, that Big U was still operating like an enforcer, not a mentor. To the outside world, Big U was supposed to be the OG who had put that life behind him, helping the next generation navigate a better path. But these court papers paint him as the man pulling strings behind robberies, extortions, and straight-up hits. It ain't like Big U was some stranger to violence either. His history in LA runs back to the 1980s, when the rolling 60s Crips became one of the most feared sets in California. Big U did a heavy bid, 13 years in prison, for drug trafficking and robbery. While locked up, he caught more stabbings and disciplinary cases that showed he wasn't letting up. Once he got out, he moved like a boss, building relationships with rappers, athletes, and businessmen, all while keeping one foot in the streets. Some saw it as genius. Big U had turned his rep into influence. Others saw it as a hustle. He was just shaking down whoever came through LA, making sure nothing moved without him eating first. The indictment even drags in NBA players and boxers. Shaquille O'Neal, Draymond Green, and Adrian Bronner were all allegedly on Big U's radar. Prosecutors say his crew demanded protection money from athletes and entertainers, making sure they paid a fee if they wanted to host events or move around the city without problems. They're even saying weed shops in LA were forced to pay up too, with Big U's people pressing dispensary owners to keep business flowing in his favor. This wasn't just some small-time operation. The feds are calling it a multi-million-dollar extortion ring. And of course, when you bring up Big U, you can't ignore the long-standing whispers about his fallout with Nipsey Hussle. Big U used to be one of Nip's mentors back when Nipsey was trying to get his career off the ground. But once they split ways, rumors flew about tension between them. Now, with this indictment, prosecutors are hinting that Big U's influence in the streets might have had deeper connections to Nipsey's tragic end. While they haven't pinned him directly to the murder, the fact that his name keeps coming up in the same conversations makes the whole thing even messier. The craziest part? Big U didn't need any of this. His own son made it to the NFL, a legit multi-million-dollar career that could have secured his family for life. With those connections, Big U could have fully pivoted into legitimate business, but the feds say he just couldn't let go of that street power. Instead of walking away, he allegedly doubled down, turning charity, music, and business into a mask for organized crime. And now, that mask is off. The feds say they got wiretaps, informants, surveillance, seized cash, and over 50 witnesses ready to bury him in court. The way the feds are laying it out, Big U wasn't just hustling on the side. He was running LA like a mob boss with extortion as his bread and butter. They claim anyone moving through the city had to check in with him or risk getting pressed. Weed dispensaries, strip clubs, promoters, even athletes and rappers, everybody had to pay their tax. If you didn't, you might get your shop robbed, your event shut down, or worse, find yourself staring down a gun. The indictment makes it sound like Los Angeles was a pay-to-play city, and Big U was the man holding the keys, and the crew around him wasn't light. Prosecutors say the 18 rolling 60s Crips indicted alongside him were like his lieutenants, running different angles of the operation. Some handled the robberies, some were on extortion detail, and others worked the so-called legit side, using developing options and unique music to clean money. The feds are calling it an enterprise, a full-blown crime family that stretched from the block all the way to Hollywood Hills. The image of Big U as a mentor, a peacemaker, a community figure. The feds say that was just the cover story. Behind closed doors, they claim he was pulling strings like the same OG from the 80s. And here's where things really turn grimy: informants. The feds say they flipped multiple people from inside the crew who started singing as soon as they got hit with their own charges. That's how RICO cases work. They're designed to break people down until they trade loyalty for freedom. According to the paperwork, insiders detailed how Big U would personally oversee extortion payments, order robberies, and threaten people who tried to dodge the rolling 60s tax. One even claimed he bragged about owning the city. If these testimonies hold up in court, Big U's defense is in deep trouble. And the feds didn't stop there. They got wiretaps. They're saying phone calls were recorded where Big U spoke in code about handling business, collecting, and putting pressure on people. In RICO cases, you don't even need a smoking gun. All you need is a pattern, and the government says the pattern is clear. Big U's influence wasn't charity or mentorship, it was intimidation and control. Throw in the surveillance footage of money drops, extortion meetings, and robberies, and it looks like the feds built a case so strong it'll take a miracle to shake it. What really shocks people is the scale. This ain't just street-level stuff. The indictment says Big U's people were tied to multi-million-dollar extortion schemes. Weed shops in LA were being forced to pay protection fees in cash every month. Event promoters had to pay to make sure their shows didn't get shut down by sudden chaos. Even NBA players and boxers supposedly had to throw money just to keep things smooth. Think about that. Multi-millionaires, world-famous athletes still having to pay tribute in Big U's city. That's the type of power the feds are accusing him of having. But the bigger the operation, the bigger the cracks. Once arrests started flying, loyalty broke fast. The indictment says members turned on each other, pointing fingers and leaking details about crimes that go back years. And one of the wildest claims, that Rayan Williams' murder wasn't an isolated act, but a warning to anyone in the circle who thought about disrespecting Big U. Killing your own artist over a diss track sounds like something out of a movie, but the feds are treating it as proof that this wasn't just business. It was a reign of terror. At the same time, the Rolling 60s reputation was already shaky. With Nipsey Hussle's murder in 2019, the set was under more scrutiny than ever. Big U was supposed to be the one bringing positive light back with community programs and peace talks. Instead, this indictment ties him directly to the type of violence and chaos that's haunted LA for decades. The irony is brutal. He got awards and city recognition for anti-gang work, while the feds now argue he was running the same gang with a tighter grip than ever. And then there's the money trail. Investigators say they seized stacks of cash, luxury cars, and even real estate tied to the scheme. They believe Big U was sitting on millions in dirty money, disguised through his nonprofits and label. That's another piece of the puzzle. When the feds show the jury pictures of Bentleys, wire transfers, and luxury houses bought with charity money, it's hard to paint the image of a misunderstood community leader. It starts looking exactly like what they're calling it: organized crime dressed up as activism. The part that really has the streets talking is how all of this ties back to Nipsey Hussle. For years, whispers floated around that Nip and Big U's relationship had soured long before Nip was tragically killed outside Marathon Clothing. Big U was one of the first people to mentor Nip in his come-up days, helping him move through the politics of LA. But once Nip started building his empire, the split got messy. Nipsey became independent, pushing his all-money-in brand without needing the Rolling 60s muscle. Rumors started that Big U felt cut out, like he was supposed to eat off Nip's success but got left behind. Now, with this indictment, prosecutors are sliding his name back into those conversations, saying his influence over the streets created the same environment that ended Nip's life. They're not charging him for it, but just connecting his name is enough to reignite all the old suspicions. And it's not just Nipsey. The feds are saying Big U murdered his own artist, Rayan Williams, after a diss track hit the streets. According to the case files, Rayan's body was found dumped in the desert, brutally beaten, shot, and left as a message. For hip-hop fans, that's a nightmare scenario. The same man who was supposed to be guiding young rappers to success allegedly turned on one of them for speaking out. If this claim holds weight in court, it'll go down as one of the darkest chapters in LA rap history. Big U had a reputation for being feared, but murdering an artist you're supposed to be managing? That's beyond business. That's pure intimidation. The Rolling 60's Crips, already notorious in LA history, look even darker under this light. For decades, they've been one of the most infamous sets, tied to everything from the crack-era wars to the present drill wave. Big U was always framed as the OG who could bring balance, who could negotiate truces, who could stop wars before they exploded. But now the feds are basically saying the exact opposite, that he was stoking the fire, keeping the machine of extortion and violence alive, even as he stood on stages collecting awards for community leadership. That kind of double life is what makes this indictment hit so hard. It's not just about crime, it's about betrayal. On the streets, the reaction is split. Some folks are shocked, saying there's no way Big U would throw everything away after building so much legit power. Others aren't surprised at all, claiming this is exactly who he's always been and the mentor role was just a mask. Either way, the chatter is wild. Some younger rappers from LA are nervous because if the feds were watching Big U this closely, who else are they watching? And some old heads are looking at it like karma, saying you can't play both sides forever, the streets and the suits, without eventually getting caught up. And don't forget, the feds say they have over 50 witnesses lined up. That's not a small case. That's an army. Wiretaps, phone records, money trails, informants flipping. They're throwing the book at him. One witness even claimed Big U boasted that he owned the city, bragging about shaking down dispensaries, promoters, even pro athletes. If jurors hear that and then see stacks of seized cash plus a murder case tied to his name, it's a wrap. RICO ain't designed to give second chances. It's designed to bury you for decades. The craziest part in all this? Big U didn't need the streets anymore. His own son was in the NFL, making millions legally. He had access to industry players, politicians, even Hollywood connections. He could have left the life completely and been set for generations. But according to the feds, that wasn't enough. They say he wanted the power, the control, the fear. That greed, that hunger to still be the shot caller might end up being the very thing that takes him down for good. Now the whole city's watching because Big U's trial is shaping up to be one of the biggest cases LA has seen since the death row days. The feds ain't playing with this RICO. They've stacked charges so high that even if he beats a few, there's still a mountain left. They're coming at him with extortion, drug trafficking, robbery, and even tying his name to homicide. And when you got over 50 witnesses, wiretaps, money trails, and seized assets, it's not about if something sticks. It's about how much time he's going to be facing when it's over. Some experts are already saying Big U could be looking at the rest of his life behind bars. And the impact goes beyond him. It's shaking the whole LA hip-hop scene. For years, Big U was the guy rappers and labels called if they wanted to move safely through LA. He was the check-in plug, the one who could clear the way for artists, events, and tours. Now that the feds say he was doing all of that under the table, it raises big questions. How many rappers paid him off? How many labels looked the other way? How many celebrities knew they were feeding into an extortion ring? The indictment doesn't just put Big U on trial, it puts the culture around him on blast. The crazy thing is how this plays into the long story of LA. From the days of Suge Knight to Nipsey Hussle's rise to now Big U's collapse, it feels like every generation has that one powerful figure who tries to mix the streets with the music game, and it always ends the same. The money, the power, the influence, it all looks good until the feds step in. And RICO cases don't just hit individuals, they tear down entire networks. The Rolling 60's Crips are one of the most notorious sets in the country, and if the feds get their way, this indictment could cripple them in ways rival gangs and police never could. But here's where it gets deeper. Big U's legacy is on the line. For years, he walked a fine line between feared street general and respected community leader. He was on TV, giving interviews about saving the youth. He was on panels, talking about ending gang violence. He even got recognition from schools and politicians for his charity work. But if these charges stick, none of that will matter. His name will go down in history, not as the OG who helped rebuild LA, but as the man who used activism as a cover for crime. That kind of betrayal hits hard because it makes every good thing he did look suspicious in hindsight. In the streets, they're split down the middle. Some are riding for him, saying the feds are exaggerating, painting another black leader as a villain to make headlines. Others say this is exactly who he's always been, and the mask just finally slipped. Either way, his name is going to be debated for years. To some, he's a legend who played the game at the highest level. To others, he's a cautionary tale about never leaving the streets behind, no matter how many opportunities you get. The wildest irony? If he had just fully retired, leaned on his son's NFL career, and lived off legit business, none of this would be happening. He could have been a respected elder in LA hip-hop forever. Instead, he allegedly chose to keep his hands dirty, to stay tied to extortion, robberies, and worse. And in the end, that decision might erase everything he built. So when the gavel drops, Big U's story will either go down as the final chapter of an LA kingpin's reign, or as the ultimate fall of a man who had it all and still wanted more. Either way, his trial is about to expose the underbelly of LA's music scene, and everybody's gonna feel the ripple effects, from rappers to athletes to business owners to the streets themselves. Big U once claimed he owned the city, but right now it looks like the city, the feds, and the culture are finally coming to collect.